With an extensive background in programming communication systems for military helicopters, to firmware engineer by day and fighting crime at night as the printer guy, Dave Mitchell sheds light on how trying to create a company with a friend, Peter Briggs, was one challenge he did not expect to trip him up. Awesome Inc. presents the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame, a show that highlights how people throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky pursue their definition of awesome through entrepreneurship, technology, and innovation. Well, hey there, I'm Garrett Farbach, and today we're going to be taking a look at one of Lexington's hottest entrepreneurial events, Startup Week in Lexington. Our good friend Dave is a native of New York and was born in a small town in the western part. He went on to college and graduated with a degree in computer science from Binghamton University. And after college, Dave had a sweet privilege to work for a defense contractor in Long Island. Following that, he moved to Lexington in 2011 to work with Lexmark as a firmware engineer. And as of December of 2017, Dave has been part of the Apex software team as a senior developer.
So a little bit about my career background. So when I graduated back in 2008, I worked for a defense contractor, and this was I was living out on Long Island in New York at the time. And what we did, my basic day-to-day is programming communication systems for military aircraft. So they did all the communication systems on the C-130s, on the Black Hawk helicopter. And so we would actually have, one of the parts I really liked is we would actually have a lab set up with all of the actual hardware that would be on the aircraft. So we could go in, we'd write some code, and then we'd have to test it out. And we had simulators, but you just couldn't beat testing it out in the real world application. So we would actually go into the lab, we'd load our software. I could put on the headsets, the military headsets, and sit there and inject tones and do all the switches. It was really cool.
That sounds amazing.
I'm fascinated with the whole military life, so it was really fascinating for me to be a part of that. So I really enjoyed that. We actually had one time where they brought in a Seahawk helicopter, it's a similar platform as the Black Hawk. It's just they use it a lot in the Coast Guard, and it actually came and landed in our parking lot. And then we got to walk around it and tour the inside and stuff. That was really
awesome.
cool.
That's really cool to hear.
I really enjoyed that job. Then when I moved to Kentucky about 8 years ago, I got a job working for Lexmark. So they're a pretty big printer company here, pretty big employer here in Lexington. So I worked for them on the firmware UI department. So everything you see on the panels of the printers, we did all the programming for that. So that was all programming user interactions, and that's a big focus on how is a user going to use this product and what's going to make it easy for them to use. Not only just programming the way things are going to appear and thinking of it that way, but you're actually transitioning into thinking about how someone is going to use your product.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I am the printer guy. I can make it work.
I love that. Well, speaking of the printer guy, that could be a very poor superhero name. And one thing I love is comics and superheroes and superpowers and all that good stuff. So I want to know, who is your favorite superhero? And the follow-up question is, what would your ideal superpower be?
So I like this question, and it's a hard one for me to answer because I would say my favorite superhero, I might have to split it up because my favorite superhero is not one that necessarily has superpowers. So I really like Batman. I'd have to say he's my favorite superhero. But when you think about in the normal sense of powers, he wasn't bitten by a spider. He doesn't have anything, the really special power other than he has a ton of money.
That's true.
He has access to a lot of gadgets, has some really amazing R&D set up there that he can have people that are building things for him. But also it's just his attitude. So he had tragedy happen in his life, which is not uncommon in most superheroes, but most of them are born out of some type of tragedy. But he really took that and kind of pulled himself up by his bootstraps and then used that to help other people. And that was kind of his goal. So I really relate a lot to Batman. I think he would definitely be my favorite superhero. And then as far as superpowers, if I could add one on to that, I forgot who it is. He was one of the X-Men, but he could transport to different places. So
Ooh, Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler.
So yes. You want to be a wealthy Nightcrawler. Okay.
Wealthy Nightcrawler.
I think that'd be pretty sweet.
You have those times, especially in Lexington, sometimes you're stuck in traffic and you're just sitting there for hours. It would be nice if you could just say, you know what, I want to appear there right now. Yep.
And then you show up. That. As a software developer, I want to know what personally is your favorite aspect of your job, but also what challenges you most.
Every problem that comes up you have the opportunity to present a new solution. I like thinking out of the box. I tend to be, with when I'm programming things, I like to think creatively and think about, is there a new way I can solve this? What's the best way to solve this? So it's kind of triggers that part in my brain that really enjoys digging into things and coming up with new solutions that maybe someone hasn't done before. And it's not just a set of rules. We have constraints, obviously, as with any career and anything that you're building. There's certain restraints, but you can kind of break outside of those sometimes and come up with new and creative solutions for things. So I would say that's my favorite aspect of it. As far as what challenges me the most, I mean, that also, even though that's my favorite aspect, that's also really challenging too. Okay. Sometimes you can just either head down a path and few days later realize that was a completely wrong path to go down, and now you need to kind of take a step back. But also there's times where it can just be mundane. I mean, there's times, I'm sure with all programmers can relate to this, where I've spent 3 hours, could not figure out why something worked, banging my head against the desk, realized I just missed a semicolon somewhere in the code. Yeah. And so can be some time wasted there, and I'm sure it's happened to everyone. So sometimes that can be a little frustrating. But
you traveled around a lot. You've had a lot of sweet experiences. What is one thing keeping you here in Lexington, and more so focused on the entrepreneurial community and your role that you see fit here at Awesome Inc. and Apex Software?
Yeah. So to be honest, before I moved to Kentucky, I was not expecting to see the cities and the amount of people and technology, and I was expecting more of the countryside of Kentucky, and that was kind of what I had pictured. So when I first moved here and I moved to Lexington, I really started to just see, first of all, what kind of drew me in was the community, and so I was just coming from, I grew up in a very small town in New York, and thought, being from New York, a lot of people think, I want to live in the city, there's all this stuff going on, there's so much energy. And so I moved to the city, and I made it 2 years, and I barely made it that 2 years, because there's just people everywhere and everything is a chore. And yes, there's a lot there and there's a lot going on, but for me, it was a little bit too much. So coming to Lexington, it was a good mix. A lot of people call it's kind of a big town, because there's a lot going on and there's a lot to do, but it's very easy to get outside of that. And so you have this great community with a lot to do and a lot of, a lot of technology happening here, but also you can kind of go out in any direction and be in some of the most amazing horse farms and countryside. Yeah. And so that kind of plays to both sides of what I like to do, because I enjoy getting out in nature and hiking and going for motorcycle rides and all those things that I can do very easily to get outside of the city, but also there's a lot going on here too. So it's kept me here for a long time.
I want to know how personally being in a co-working space has influenced you just to take part in some of the activities within the entrepreneurial community.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, honestly, it's hard not to be influenced by that. Just working out of this space every day, and you're constantly surrounded by people who are, you have the people that are working here, that are renting space out of Awesome Inc. and they're building their own business, and just having little conversations with them, whether, we're both hanging out in the kitchen grabbing coffee and you're just having conversations and you hear about their business and the excitement they have over it, as well as all the events and the things that Awesome Inc. puts on and all of the things they make available to entrepreneurs and in the community. I feel lucky to be able to be a part of it and kind of, for a while, I can kind of play the role as a bystander and kind of watch some of that happening, but then I also can engage in it as well. And the more I engage in it, the more it kind of sparks that entrepreneurial side of myself that makes me want to be more and more part of the community.
So for those of you guys who don't know, there's something really amazing that happens every year towards the end of November, and that's called Global Entrepreneurship Week. And here at Awesome Inc., we've hosted a really cool event called Startup Week in Lexington, I believe the last 12 years. This year you stepped it up and you said, hey, I want to be a part of this. And you took part on a team, and I want to know personally what made you want to be a part of Startup Weekend.
So it kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, where that part of me that wanted to be an entrepreneur, I always kind of saw that in other people and thought, I don't think I could ever do that, or that wouldn't be me. And then the more I became part of the community, it just kind of started to wake up that part of myself. So, but really kind of what got me down that path was we had a summer retreat.
Okay.
this past summer that Awesome Inc. put on, and they bring in a lot of the people that are part of the fellowship and a lot of the different companies, and it's a weekend where we're there to just hang out and have fun and network, but also they do these sessions where they bring in other people, other entrepreneurs to give talks, and that really that kind of solidified it for me and kind of started me down that path. So when I found out about Startup Weekend, it sounded fun and it sounded exciting, and it was something I wanted to check out.
What was a project that you worked on, and then what was the outcome?
So the project we worked on was an app called MealSense. For people that aren't familiar with Startup Weekend, you show up on Friday and everyone has an opportunity that wants to pitch an idea. And these are like 1-minute pitches. It's things, I haven't worked on this at all. It's not something I'm actively doing, but I showed up and I thought, it'd be cool if I had this or I had that. And then you pitch it. We vote down to about the top 10, and then everyone breaks out into groups, and you basically just say, hey, yeah, I think I like your idea. I want to work on it with you. And then you have from Friday night until Sunday afternoon to actually make a business out of it, make it a thing. So Peter was the one that actually gave the pitch, and I thought that sounded like a pretty cool idea. So the background of it was he's a self-proclaimed poor college student. So, and he was saying, I always spend so much money and I'm eating out all the time. And I know that it's better to cook more food at home, and I would love to be able to do that, but I just don't know how. I don't know what recipes I want to use. I don't know what I need to get at the store. It's easy when you go to the store, you just want to kind of grab what just grab all the ingredients and get in and get out as fast as you can. So
absolutely.
Wasn't really sure what he should get. And then also the part of it that really made it stand out and I was interested in is there's the budgeting side of it. So his thing was, I want to be able to do all these things, but still be able to save money. And because there's a reason you should be able to save money by going to the grocery store and cooking out more. So the idea of the app was to not only be a meal planning app, but also incorporate the budget into that. So you tell us how much you want to spend per month. So you'll set up a meal plan, and then you'll pick a couple recipes that you want. It'll give you the list of ingredients. You can say, you can obviously exclude all the ingredients that you already have in your pantry and just get a list of what you need to buy. And then we'll also track the prices of that. Okay. So then you have an idea of roughly how much you're going to spend, or there's even ways you can integrate it directly with Kroger and actually get the actual price of the products. And,
oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. I thought that was really cool. So then this is how much I'm going to spend, and then the app would keep track of all of that and be able to give you kind of almost like Mint, almost like combining a meal planning app with Mint to be able to kind of see where you're at. That kind of positive reinforcement encourages you to want to cook more food, and then you're learning more recipes and you're becoming a better chef, but you're also saving money at the same time. So
that's pretty sweet.
Yes.
I love that. I mean, being in the audience when you guys were pitching this, I know personally at almost 23, I'm like, wow, this is something that I would have used all throughout college and I'd still use today. And I think that was a general consensus with a lot of people. They're like, oh wow, this could totally apply to myself. Yeah,
we got that feedback from a lot of people as we were going through and working on the project, and people were saying, and people like you said yourself, like young college students up to working moms and people that were like, yeah, I would use this. This is something that really sounds good to me. And we actually sent out a survey, and we got over 100 responses back. A lot of that positive feedback that we felt like this was going to be something. Yeah, maybe a good idea.
Sweet. And the funny thing is, knowing where Peter lives in town and that he goes to the college Kroger, it's always a zoo. So that would be a nice way to kind of save a trip and save some time.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to go into the grocery store, you just send it to your click list, and then you show up and everything's there and ready.
Continuing hearing about your experience, what is one of the major takeaways that you feel like you benefited from after Startup Weekend back in November? But also, what's one thing that you were shocked to learn about how much you enjoy the task of being an entrepreneur and having that entrepreneurial mindset?
I'll admit I went into it kind of with a thought of, I'm going to be a pretty good asset because I can build an app. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to spend all weekend. We're going to come up with an idea. I'm going to spend all weekend and I'm going to build an app, and it's going to be really cool because at the end of the couple of days, we're going to have something to the show and you can run on your phone. And so I was, and it kind of goes back to my past experience with things like this, which were more on the side of, they call them hackathons. Okay. Which is, it's a similar thing where you have an idea, but it's more geared towards technology. Okay. So you have an idea, and then you have a certain amount of time to, you basically, they call it a hackathon because you're hacking. For that whole time, you're just trying to hack things together and come up with some kind of proof of concept that this idea you had for this technology actually would work. So that was my mindset going into it. And so I was thinking, I could go in and do, create the app, and I'll let the other members on the team figure out the business side of it. That wasn't really my focus. And so I was going down that path until sometime Saturday afternoon. One of the cool things about Startup Weekend is they also had about 4 coaches come in who are local entrepreneurs, and they would just walk around and kind of see how we're doing and give us some good information. Sometimes they would drop a bomb and walk away and leave us to kind of pick up the pieces. And Saturday afternoon, one of the coaches came by and he said, one of the first things he said was, forget the tech. And for me, being like the tech guy there on the team, I to be honest, got a little offended by it. It was a little hit to my pride. And I was like, well, if we forget the tech, then what am I going to do? I might as well just sit around. And
also knowing that you stayed up till 4 a.m. after you went home.
I did.
That also plays into that.
I also had been up till 4, which, in college I used to be able to do that. But now being an old man, it's not as easy to do. But I was excited about it. And I did, I'd stayed up late and was working on things. And so, but as he went on to explain it, basically his reasoning was building an app is easy to do. Especially nowadays, when I first got out of college, if you could build an app, you were in high demand. Building an app is easy. Building a website is easy. It's building something that people actually want to buy. And there's so much of it out there that your focus has to be on what is going to make this different and what are people going to actually want to buy. So once I kind of got over that, I really shifted my focus to, okay, if I'm not focusing on this app, then how can I contribute and how can I focus on the business side of it? And that just shifted my focus, and I was able to really just tap in with the rest of the team and figure out how are we going to make this a business? How are we going to make it stand out?
Absolutely.
So I really, that was a great takeaway for me. So there were a couple different defining moments I can think of throughout the weekend. And another thing that happened, I mentioned, some of the coaches like to just walk in and drop bombs. And so Drew, who was also one of the coaches, walked up, and we had been kind of going down this path of, we're gonna make this app and we're gonna sell it to Kroger because they're gonna be so excited. It's gonna be so cool. They're gonna be so happy. They're gonna just throw money at us to want to use this app and be able to be a part of it. And we had basically built our whole business model around that. And again, this was late Saturday, and you don't have a lot of time to really shift or pivot or come up with new ideas. And he basically walked up and was like, why? What's going to make Kroger is this huge multi-million-dollar company. What's going to make them want to partner up with you? And he worked through it with us, but he basically just said, that's not going to work. And then we kind of came to that realization. And so we were, as a team, we were a little discouraged because this is what we had been working towards, and this is what we've been, this is what we were going to do. But one of the things that I really liked is we took a step back. We literally took 5 minutes. We kind of went our separate ways to just kind of figure things out, get some air, and then we came back. We put up a whiteboard and we said, all right, let's figure this out. Are we gonna pivot, which is, are we gonna change our idea and go down another path, or can we make this work? And so we gave it a shot. We gave our original idea a shot, and we sat down and we talked about it, but we looked at it honestly. And we came to the conclusion that no, this isn't going to work, that he was right. And so we need to pivot. And so then we moved down the path of a monthly price model. Okay. And it just kind of started to click. But as a team, we had to get there together. I was really grateful for the team that I had because we all just kind of banded together and said, okay, we want to make this work. What do we need to do? And we really did it. And then from that point on, it just wrote itself.
Yeah, so talk a little more into pivoting, because I know that is a crucial action you have to take and a mindset that you have to be okay with when starting a business. And it's great to fail fast as an entrepreneur and when you're starting a company. And even though you guys were doing this through a fun experience that was being hosted, it was crucial for you guys' success.
Sometimes it's good to stick to your guns and go with your original idea, but there's times, really you need to be honest with yourself and listen to the feedback you're getting. You want to honestly take all that in and be ready to go a different direction. When you pivot, there's a reason why you started down the path you did. You had a good idea, and it doesn't mean it's not a good idea, just a part of it, and part of your execution on that idea needs to change. And the reason you start a company is you have an idea and you have a passion for it, but ultimately you want it to make money. And so for us, it was, this isn't going to make money this way, let's go down a different path. And so really I would just say it's just be open to that and take in the advice, and then also give it enough of a shot. We didn't just say, okay, we threw it all out, this isn't going to work. We gave it a shot.
After this experience, I want to know, how do you see yourself playing into the future of Lexington's entrepreneurial community?
This is somewhat new to me, this idea of like playing a role in the business side of it and the entrepreneur side of it, because I have a lot of experience in the technology side, and I think that can transfer over. But really, I see myself as almost starting over. I love doing that. I always want to learn. I always want to gain more knowledge, and so having a new challenge for me is exciting. So to be honest, I kind of feel like the new guy here, and I want to learn as much as I can from these other people, these other entrepreneurs that know. They've been successful. They've built products that people have liked and wanted to pay money for, and they're running these businesses. And I almost feel like it's starting from scratch in a new area. And so that's exciting for me, is just, growing as a person and learning another side of things.
Yeah, that's sweet. So Dave, last thing, what advice do you have for anyone who has either an interest or a passion to get involved with software or innovative technologies or even entrepreneurship?
This is something I've learned throughout my career. Always surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. There's always more to learn. There's always going to be someone out there that's smarter than you are. And you don't take that as a threat. Take it as an opportunity to grow, and take it as an opportunity to learn more. And so I think about when my time working at Lexmark, I was surrounded with tons and tons of just super brilliant engineers and people in the technology community. And so I learned as much as I could in that situation, and took their criticism as an opportunity to grow and an opportunity to learn more. So I think it's just purposely stepping out of your comfort zone, and you don't sell yourself short and think, I just won't be able to do that. Try it. Put yourself in that situation and really, become a sponge and soak up as much as you can from people that are already successful in that area that you want to try and learn as much as you can. And I think on the flip side of that, take that knowledge and share it with other people, and be that person to someone who is willing to share that knowledge and share that information with them, because that's the whole cycle. That's what keeps technology and entrepreneurship going, especially in a smaller city like this, is the community and as the people learning from each other and growing as part of that.
All right, well, that's it. We want to say thank you again so much for checking out the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame podcast. Special thanks to Lee Rosevear for the music that you hear in the show, and to Lexington's Awesome Inc. for hosting us from their space. Again, I'm Garrett Farbach. Make sure to check back and tune in next time. We'll see you then.